It's lovely to be here today, and hello from Brussels. I don't know if there's anybody else here from Brussels this morning, but it's misty outside. It hasn't been great weather this week. So thank you very much for inviting me today to the Water Cafe and to my former university, DCU. It's nice to be back. So as Fiona said, my name is Caroline Green and I am Senior Communications Manager with Euro. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Euro, the work that we do and how we work. And then I'll introduce some of the challenges that we see over the next 10 years, the biggest challenges facing the water sector. Okay, there we go. No, I can't. I'm not moving on. Oh, my screen is stuck for some reason.
I think
there we go.
Yeah.
Got it. Don't worry. Okay, good. Thankfully. So as I said, I'll tell you a little bit about who Euro is and how we work and what we do, our objectives and priorities and the 8 challenges facing us. So as Fiona mentioned, Euro, we represent national associations of water services across Europe. So in Ireland, that means that we our members are the City and County Councillors Management Association, CCMA, and Irish Water. There are our 2 members from Ireland. We have 34 national associations in our membership from all across Europe, inside and outside the EU, from 29 countries. So outside the EU, that means we've got Norway, Switzerland, Serbia, and the UK as members. And we represent both the public and the private sector. And we estimate that in all across Europe, there are 475,000 people employed in the water sector in one way or the other. So that's just in the direct employment. So it does make quite a significant contribution to the European economy. And you can see there in a map where our members are based. So a couple of statistics, and we issued a report last year. We call it Europe's Water in Figures. So that's where the information comes from. We get the information from each of our members and how they run their water services. So it's quite an interesting report. I can share it with you afterwards if you like. So based on our research, we estimate that 96% of people across Europe are connected in some way to a drinking water network. So the 4% people who are not, usually made up of people who are homeless or who choose to live off the grid, or who are based in the very remotest parts of North Norway or North Sweden or Finland, and so really inaccessible places. And we estimate as well that about 87% of people are connected to a wastewater network across Europe. Again, these people who are not, the 13% who are not, again, homeless people or people in, like, I think it's quite common in Ireland and England that people are have their own septic tanks and just are off the main wastewater network like that. So quite like out of the 500 million or so people across Europe who live in Europe, we are in contact with most of them, or we work with most of them, or make up our consumers, of our members. So what do we do in Euro? Basically, we've got about 170 members across Europe, and these are all drinking and wastewater, economic and legal affairs. They're all experts in their field, and we get together quite often to exchange knowledge and share information across how we work and what we do. The email chats are quite frequent and quite detailed, so it's good to get that feedback from our members. We use this information to establish positions, common European positions that we can all get behind, and we share these with European policymakers so that the policies that the European institutions make are robust and that they reflect the actual situations on the ground. So we have quite a lot and quite regularly meet with people, civil servants, desk officers, directors, commission Commission Cabinet staff, so the team of people who work with the commissioners and with the commissioners themselves, as well as MEPs. We meet with them quite often to put across our positions, the common European positions on different water policies, environmental policies, and I'll talk a little bit more about exactly the areas that we work on a little bit more. We don't engage directly with the council. The council is made up of the national ministers, so the Irish Minister for the Environment, of Agriculture, people like that. We don't really engage with them directly, but we support our members in their meetings with national policymakers. So if let's say our Danish members are meeting their national minister for the environment, we will of course help them, support them in those meetings. So just a little bit about how we work in Euro, how our government, how we're structured. Each country has one person who sits on our General Assembly. So Ireland has 2 members, as I said, the CCMA and Irish Water, and there's one person who represents both organisations. I don't know if many people know Tom Leahy. He's our General Assembly representative for Ireland. And so our GA meets twice a year to discuss kind of the broad strands of Euro policy and how we work, what we're going to work on, and the general direction that we're going to go in. And they approve all of our position papers. After that, we have an executive committee made up of representatives from the General Assembly, about 6 members, plus the committee chairs, and we meet with them about 5 or 6 times a year to discuss a little bit more the nuts and bolts of the work in Euro. And on top of that, we have 3 committees, one on drinking water, one on wastewater, and one on economics and legal affairs. And they meet 3 times a year, plus the usual email exchanges between them to discuss the day-to-day workings of Euro and to establish our positions and to share information. So there's quite a lot of work goes on there between those. And then on top of that, we have 5 joint working groups. And so they are kind of, they work across the different committees. And our joint working groups are on water reuse, innovation, the value of water services, the Water Framework Directive, and on micropollutants. So they're kind of like transboundary issues that everybody works upon. And then, as Fiona said, the Secretariat is based in Brussels, which is where I work. And we're a team now of 6 people who do the day-to-day running of the Secretariat. So in Euro, we have 3 main objectives and priorities. So the first one is to ensure access to water services by securing investments. And so we work with the EU institutions, with national members, to ensure that there's money put into the system to renew infrastructure so that everybody can get access to drinking water and wastewater services. Second of all, our second priority is protecting our water resources from pollution. So we do quite an awful lot of work, again, at political level, to make sure that the EU legislation that is made, that comes from Brussels, comes from here, reflects the situation on the ground, and that it's robust enough, and that it can withstand pressure, and that it's effective enough to protect the environment and protect consumers. Because like I always say, the less things we have to do to our water, the better it is for the environment and for people. And third of all, we promote the sustainable use of resources through the circular economy. So this is the recycling of wastewater, to make sure that we've got water reuse, that the nutrients, the fibres coming from our wastewater treatment plants can be sustainably used in the circular economy. And this also goes back to environmental protection and making sure that there's as few contaminants as possible in our wastewater. And this also has to do with energy efficiency. So these are our 3 objectives and priorities. So basically everything that we do comes back to 1, 2, or 3 of these objectives. To do all of this work, we work with quite a lot of stakeholders from the international, like IWA and the European Water Association. We also do quite a lot of work with the OECD, NATO and the WHO, WHO being very prominent at the moment. We work with quite a lot of associations, trade associations, federations here in Brussels and across Europe. We work with the pharmaceutical industry and farmers to put across our point of view to see how we can find common ground. And we also work, of course, with green NGOs such as Healthcare Without Harm, WWF, ChemSec, the European Environmental Bureau. So these are the people that we meet with quite often. And of course, we also work very closely with the European institutions such as the European Commission and the European Parliament. Oh, sugar. So with that, we together, we canvassed our members, and about 18 months ago, we came up with 8 challenges that are facing the European, particularly the European water sector for the next 10 years. And so I will go through those. So the first challenge that we faced is really delivering safe and reliable water services 24/7. So as we all know, safe drinking water at the tap and appropriate wastewater treatment, these are necessary for public health and for human health and for our environment, our ecosystems. European water operators are committed to delivering these fundamental water services 24/7, and this is under one of the main pieces of legislation that we work from is the Water Framework Directive. Mainly, like as we all know, Article 7.3 about the protection of water bodies, and then the UN Sustainable Development Goal of 6 of clean water and sanitation for all. So our members do this by supplying drinking water that is safe and clean and returning treated wastewater to the environment in such a way that it protects both public health and the environment. We also do this by connecting all households to adequate water and sanitation services to the extent that this is economically justifiable. The second challenge that we identified is protecting water as a vulnerable resource. Everything that we do as a society or as people, as individuals, affects water or is affected by our water in one way or the other. So linked into this is the EU's zero pollution ambition, which should ensure the protection of water resources. And every day, the water sector treats tens of millions of cubic meters of water. And we estimate this at about 33.2 billion meters cubed of drinking water per year alone is treated in Europe. So quite a lot. I think it's about 45 billion cubic meters of wastewater is treated in Europe every year. So it's quite a lot. So treating all of this water contributes to the protection of European water resources. And linked to this then, of course, is the issue of micropollutants. So nitrates, mercury, pollutants of emerging concern, PFAS, pharmaceuticals, microplastics. All of these things represent a challenge for our water resources and for the water services once they enter the water cycle. And in line with the precautionary principle and the EU treaties, pollution should be prevented and controlled as much as possible at source, we believe. So we advocate for a control at source approach or the polluter pays. I'm sure everybody as well is familiar with the extended producer responsibility. So if this must kick in, we support this as well, and we would we'd advocate for end of pipe solutions only as a last resort even. So control at source is what we're really looking for. So I'll move on to the third challenge. Promoting the value of water services to ensure long-term sustainable financing. So we need water suppliers all across Europe, and they must engage with consumers and other stakeholders to ensure that there is a good understanding of the many ways in which our water matters. And we promote these intangible, these values of water services to promote a better understanding of where our water comes from and where it goes to and what happens to it in between. So we do this in terms of protecting public health, the quality of life, safety and well-being of people and the environment. And we believe in the value of water services so much that we have established a joint working group to work specifically on this. So we're working on a paper at the moment on the value of our wastewater services. So that should come out in the next couple of months. If you look on our website, you'll find a paper on the value of our drinking water services that we published last year. So linked to this is promoting the value of water in the circular economy. Water forms an integral part of the circular economy, and Euro and our members we're committed to strengthening our involvement in this. Wastewater and its byproduct sludge, they contain valuable resources such as energy, phosphorus, nitrogen, and other nutrients and cellulose that can be recovered and reused in the circular economy, so promoting the circular economy, of course, aims to save our scarce natural resources, including water and minerals. Being able to recycle these back into the environment also kind of reduces the negative impacts of these on the environment, of course, and it helps to foster economic growth and job creation. We also promote the use of treated water to be reused under certain circumstances. And again, all of these 8 challenges are linked one to each other. So I'll talk a little bit more about innovation in a few minutes, but all of this is linked back to innovation. So finding better ways of doing what we can with what we have. It goes back to innovation. And of course, very importantly, source control. The fewer things that go into our environment and into our wastewater, the fewer things the wastewater operators have to remove. So better all around there. The 5th challenge that we identified amongst our members is, again, we're looking at resource efficiency and climate neutral. We've all seen the effects of climate change this summer between fires and floods. It was not a very good summer for our environment. So we're committed to achieving climate neutrality in line with the EU's Green Deal goal of becoming climate neutral by the year 2050. And despite increasing drinking and wastewater treatment needs, we will need more efforts to become more energy efficient. And I've already had a meeting this morning with some colleagues about the rising price of energy prices. So this energy efficiency is going to become even more important in the next couple of years. We advocate that our wastewater treatment plants are they're centers of renewable energy, and between there's centers where we can generate biomethane, and this can all be pumped back into the grid and reused and recycled. We also advocate for the wise use of chemical substances in water treatment in the processes. So our water operators also make great efforts to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Point 6, so as I said, I'd speak a little bit more about innovation and professionalism within the water treatment sector. As I said, we estimate that throughout the sector, there are about 475,000 people employed directly by water operators in the EU. and this, this doesn't include people who work in support services around it. We need innovation. The EU is all about finding new ways and new innovative ways of doing things in a better way, or in a more efficient way. So innovation is very, very important to us. These technological progress, and including like digitalization, the data economy, artificial intelligence, all of these offer new opportunities to the water sector to deliver our services more effectively and more sustainably. So access to these innovative solutions must be facilitated and made future safe. And these is all supported by investments as well. We need investments in research, development, innovation, and we work with the EU institutions to secure investments in innovation for our members. Linked to this is we need people to work in the water sector. So developing appropriate skills and opportunities for young people or for older people as well, to come in, develop their skills and work in the water sector is important. We work with our members to do this. So I know an awful lot of our members have opportunities and skills, opportunities for young professionals through apprenticeships and traineeships and training programs to develop these skills and the skills that are necessary for working in the water sector. But it's not just it's not just the engineers. We've developed skills, or we help our members help develop skills in communications, of course. We need lawyers, we need engineers, we need technicians, we need managers. So, it's a huge industry that needs support and needs people to work into it. And so it's also about attracting people in and working with them. So managing, I think most of us here have visited a wastewater treatment plant, or a water treatment plant in general, or have worked in them or visited them. And we all know that traditionally water services look to the long term when making their planning and constructing waterworks, the distribution networks, the collection systems and the treatment plants that we need that support our water infrastructure all across Europe. Some parts of the infrastructure are quite new, and unfortunately some parts of them are quite old, and our members know that when they're building these infrastructure, we need to think long term. So these physical pipes, networks, treatment plants, they can last for 50 years, if not more. So we have to balance this long-term approach with flexibility, and the flexibility to meet challenges that are coming out between new pollutants, climate change, things like that. So this balance is very important for us. Policymakers must take while I say we have to be flexible, the infrastructure that we have there is quite inflexible. So policymakers must take the inherent inflexibilities into account when designing new legislation. And it's vital for us, it's vital for the water sector to have efficient long-term planning matched with our investment needs on the basis of the 3 Ts, taxes, tariffs and transfers. So this all works in together, and at the same time we have to balance this with affordability of our water services. So finally, the last challenge that we identified is reinforcing the resilience of our water services. So maintaining safe and secure water services is essential for our functioning societies and for us to live our day-to-day lives, even in crisis situations. And we've seen over the past 2 years that especially at the beginning, an awful lot of our members were wondering how are they going to work. So that's one crisis, but there's other crises that can pop up. So with this in mind, the resilience, we see 2 main areas where we need to develop our resilience. So natural disasters and climate change. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, extreme weather events are becoming more frequent. So between severe floods and droughts, these are becoming more common across Europe especially, and climate change remains a serious challenge for the water sector. So we have to minimise the impacts of climate change and adapt mitigation and adaptation measures while controlling costs and complying with legislation. We do this by developing long-term plans to deal with climate change and natural disasters. But what's vital as well is that we coordinate efforts at national, local level and across Europe, but also that we coordinate policies so that these are effective and are fit for purpose. The other area where we have to be resilient is in man-made security risks. And we're working on some pieces of legislation at the moment and with the EU institutions to take account of this. So our sector, we have to analyse any security risks or vulnerabilities that can happen and take effective measures to mitigate these. And they could be cyber attacks, cyber securities, and we have to work with our interdependence with other sectors such as the power and telecommunications sectors. So those are our local suppliers in our national countries, to make sure that we're not open to any attacks, cyber or otherwise, but also that data is protected, and even our consumers' data is all protected. So these are the 8 challenges that we identified, and I mentioned that we do an awful lot of work on EU legislation. These are just a couple of the pieces of legislation that we're working on at the moment. I had to think about it, and I think I came up with something like we're working on 40 or 50 different pieces of legislation in Euro at the moment. So this is kind of just the top, not even a top 10, but if I were to put all 40 pieces here, it would be a very crowded slide. So you all know that the Drinking Water Directive was proposed in 2018 and finalised finalised in January 2020. So it's going through implementation at the moment. The next big, huge, key piece of legislation that we're going to be working on with our members is the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, and we're expecting a proposal. I wouldn't say any day now, but coming up to the summer is when we're expecting that to come out. We're also working quite a lot on the Bathing Water Directive, on the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, which are those two directives are currently in the European Parliament. Also in the European Parliament are coming to the end of its time there, and with the Council is the CAP, which we're all very familiar with. We do an awful lot of work on, we're working on pesticides at the moment, on the pharmaceuticals legislation, and we're also looking at the implementation of the Water Framework Directive, which is coming to an end in 2027. It is the end of the life of that piece of legislation. So we'll see what happens to the Water Framework Directive after that. So that concludes our introduction to Euro and our key challenges, our key issues, our objectives and our priorities. If you want to get in contact with me, you can email me at carolinegreen@euro.org, or you can also follow us on Twitter. We're @Euro, and you can ask us anything you want to there too. And we're across Instagram, LinkedIn and Facebook as well, if you're not a Twitter user. So thank you.